Well, President Trump is telling DHS Secretary Noem to, under no circumstances, should her department intervene in Democrat city protests until the city itself asks for help. Please, he said.
It comes as a federal judge rejects Minnesota's request to block the surge of ICE agents in the state.
DHS Secretary Kristi Noem joining us now. Madam Secretary, thank you for being here. We have a lot to get to, but obviously the president's most recent statement there on Truth Social, your reaction and thoughts on where this is headed now.
Well, the president's exactly right. We've got the Department of Homeland Security that is coming off its most successful year under his leadership in the history of the department. We have secured the border. We've driven down the murder rates and the crime rates to historic lows in this country, saved hundreds of millions of lives by interdicting drugs across the country and in our maritime borders. We've seen the left violently react, perpetuate violence and mob rule in our cities in retaliation for President Trump enforcing the law. And we're going to continue on a tactical plan to confront this violence that they're bringing to make sure we still continue to do the right thing. We're going to enforce the law, focus on the successes that we've had for the American people and bringing public safety to them. And we're going to go into this next year delivering even more results, making sure that our officers have the ability to conduct operations to get these dangerous criminals off of our streets that are perpetuating violence, and continue to go forward and deliver FEMA funding and help these states that have been so hit hard in these storms recently, and run TSA and keep our airlines and air traffic control safe. All of those are jobs of the Department of Homeland Security that we need to continue to push on, even though we have these violent monsters that are attacking law enforcement every day, continuing to use their tactics. We will outsmart them, and we will make sure that we keeping America safe.
Well, indeed, President Trump obviously sent Tom Homan into Minneapolis to change up the strategy, as you just mentioned. Tom Homan gave a press conference last week saying that there were mistakes that DHS made on the ground in Minneapolis. What were those mistakes?
Oh, you know what I would say is that we can always do better, and we learn from every situation that we're in. We see a very organized, well-funded campaign of violent protests against our law enforcement officers. And so we're going to continue to get as much information as soon as possible to give a strategy to protect people, protect our federal buildings like the president laid out yesterday. And we're going to make sure that the American people are safe, that we still continue to go after violent criminals who are trafficking drugs, trafficking our children, and bring them to justice and get them out of our country. If you think about last year of the Biden administration, over 125,000 children just in that year were trafficked across the border. And by securing that border this last year, zero children have been trafficked in the last 12 months because of President Trump's leadership. And that's what we're going to continue to bring. You've heard about all these children that we found and returned. We actually have countries that are asking for their children back. The president of Guatemala wanted their children back that had been trafficked in our country, and we tried to facilitate that, and an activist judge stopped us from giving those children back to their families. So we're going to continue to work no matter what these left violent protesters are doing to stop law enforcement and to put people's lives in jeopardy.
Yeah, speaking of the children, by the way, it's incredible. Not just have you not had any children trafficked over the border, but you have returned almost 150,000 of them to either their parents or located them. They were literally lost in the system. It's truly remarkable. And I know that many of them had fallen into sex trafficking. So it's an incredible story to tell, and it happened under DHS. And I think that's why the president this past week wrote Truth Social saying that you're doing a great job, actually. Here is another story about a child. So here's a judge. We've all heard about this 5-year-old in Minneapolis who his father was apprehended by ICE, and then he ran away on foot, abandoning the child. And then when ICE tried to find his mother, the mother refused to open the door for the child, and somehow DHS or ICE takes this child, gives the child food, protects it from the parents who've abandoned him. somehow ICE is the bad guy in this situation. Well, a judge has ordered the release of this child who was in custody because his parents had abandoned him. The case has the judge says the case has its genesis in the ill-conceived and incompetently implemented government pursuit of daily deportation quotas, apparently even if it requires traumatizing children. So first, let's address this quota. Is there a quota that you're getting from the White House that you have to meet, or are you just addressing crime and criminals as you see as they come to your awareness?
No, Rachel, there's no quotas. And let me be clear, these families always get the opportunity to stay together. This child has been with his father, which was the father's choice. We offered them the opportunity to go home, to send them back to their home country if they would like to. The father chose to stay, and therefore we're following the legal process. But it's shocking to me the media's lies about not just that story, but day after day after day about what we do for work in this country to bring people that are dangerous criminals to justice and then remove them from our country if they don't belong here, if they came here illegally. We have the opportunity every day for people who want to go home and are in this country illegally. We give you $2,600. We buy you a plane ticket and send you home right now. That's a voluntary program. We've had millions of people take advantage of that. That is something that we still want individuals to make the right decision so they have the chance to come back to this country the right way.
Secretary, a lot of people said no one would take, they actually mocked the self-deportation notion, and yet millions have done that. Just very quickly,
They have.
You've been there a little over a year. How has morale changed at the Department of Homeland Security in spite of all this media?
Oh, the people at the Department of Homeland Security and law enforcement are so excited they get to do their jobs. They're so proud to work for a president that is strong, that is decisive, and that wants to make America safe and enforce our laws again. So they're doing great. In fact, Rachel, just at ICE, we had over 220,000 applications for 10,000 openings. At USCIS, we've had tens of thousands of applications. Secret Service applications have more than doubled. We've got people in every department that are asking to come and work for the Department of Homeland Security because they recognize that we want to defend the homeland, that a country with no borders is no country at all, that people who live here and our citizens deserve safety on their streets, and that we deliver a response of protection of our critical infrastructure and relief to states when they face disasters through FEMA as well. It's a vast department with a lot of responsibilities, 23 different agencies, all tasked with keeping people safe, and that's exactly what President Trump is doing.
And, you know, Madam Secretary, you're getting a lot of criticism recently. Now, in the wake of Alex Preddy's tragic shooting, you described him as a domestic terrorist, and that has seemed to have led to many Democrats, including Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who you just heard in Chad's report, now threatening to try and impeach you, calls for your resignation. So my question is a little bit twofold. One is, do you still hold that view that Alex Preddy is falling in the category of a domestic terrorist? And your response to those like Jeffries and Democrats that are calling for your resignation and threatening impeachment?
Well, Griff, in those situations, there was chaos on the ground. You're relying on information and facts that you're getting from the ground. And the president and this administration's been incredibly transparent with the American people. And so when those reports are given, you give as much information as you possibly can. And we continue to go through with the FBI leading on these investigations to get to the bottom of this situation, these protests and fraud that we see in Minnesota, who's funding them, where the billions of dollars have gone that were stolen from the American taxpayers and citizens. We'll continue to do our work. And, you know, this job is an honor to do. I'm very blessed that I get the chance to lead the department. It's an important position to protect our homeland and to make sure that these agencies are responding to people, that we're stopping terrorists and criminals from harming the American people. I always tell people that the days that you don't hear about us are the days that we were successful, because that meant that we stopped so many dangerous people from perpetuating violence and have gotten those terrorist threats and criminals out of our country before they had the chance to do something that would have devastated families.
That's certainly true. But do you still believe that Alex Preddy is a domestic terrorist?
You know, we're going to continue to go through with this investigation and deliver information as we go forward. You know, you learn something new from the reports all the time, and we'll continue to do better and give factual information to people as we go through every situation that's on the ground.
So it wasn't just Democrats that you stirred up some controversy with. There were a lot of Second Amendment defenders who were upset about your comment about Preddy, saying, I don't know of any peaceful protester that shows up with a gun and ammunition rather than a sign. And a lot of people, gun owners who are, rely on you to be a faithful defender of the Second Amendment, saw that as undermining Second Amendment rights.
Oh, Charlie, you know, I'm a carrier as well and a lifetime member of the NRA. There's nobody who's more pro Second Amendment than me. What I would say to that is you had an individual. Yeah, I think, well, with that situation, we had someone who was impeding a federal law enforcement operation, and they had been doing that for quite some time ahead of time, and a background in this. And everyone knows that it's against the law to impede a federal law enforcement investigation with no ID on you and be carrying in those situations. That's the law in this country.
We want to move down to the shut. But first of all, I just want to say, because this whole situation has brought a lot of attention onto your role. At the same time, we're hearing from the administration that they are touting the crime rates that have come down. The murder rate has come down. It's the lowest it's been in over 100 years. There's so much wonderful statistics that have been put forward. And you were behind so much of this. I know you're kind of a quiet Midwestern kind of a person who doesn't like to take a lot of credit for what you've done. And I've seen that in you. But you were doing exactly what the White House asked you to do. And the successes also are attributed to you. Do you want to talk a little bit about these crime rates and what your department and your leadership has done specifically towards that?
Well, the statistics speak for themselves. With crime rate at historical lows, it's at the lowest rate across this country since it started to be tracked over 125 years ago. Murders have dramatically dropped. We've got drug trafficking down, fentanyl coming over the southern borders down by almost 60%. We've interdicted tons and tons of cocaine on the seas. Our Coast Guard has been working with the Department of War on these Venezuelan shadow fleet oil ships. The work that the Department of Homeland Security does, I've been proud to direct because it's been singularly focused on doing exactly what President Trump campaigned on, exactly what he promised, and that was to make sure we're using all of our government to do what we can to bring safety to the American people, to stop the invasion. And think about that. We had millions of people that crossed that southern border, unvetted by the Biden administration, no idea who they were. And other countries unloaded their prisons, their mental institutions, sent people to this country that wanted to do us harm. My job is to find them, bring them to justice, and get them out of this country before they harm us and to harm our citizens. So I'm so proud of the work that we've done at the department. It was a neglected department before I got here. It was run by a secretary who didn't pay attention, didn't address our threats. In fact, the first day that President Trump was in office, and on New Year's Day, even before he took over, we had a terrorist attack in this country, in New Orleans. And that's what we get up every day and work to stop and to make sure that we're getting those terrorists and suspected terrorists out of our country.
And Madam Secretary, just before we run out of time, I do want to ask you about another job at the department, and that is, of course, FEMA. You've been leading the effort as this historic winter storm has hit. I've spoken to members of Congress from Tennessee, my home state, who said that they are terrified of the impact that this government shutdown could have on getting resources and funding to FEMA in places like Tennessee, Mississippi, North Carolina that are being hit hardest.
Yeah, this winter storm Fern, that devastated dozens of states. There was 12 that were major disaster declarations, and we worked with all of those states to pre-deploy resources to send them funds immediately. FEMA's been responding and delivering support to these states that are managing through these disasters 3 times faster than they ever have before. And we just last night had this bomb cyclone that hit the Carolinas, and in talking with their governors and talking with Virginia and their government as well, we we can pre-deploy food and meals, generators, teams to help set up those generators, keep people warm through this cold snap. That is all proactive work we're doing to help support these disasters that are managed by states but executed by the local officials. And I think it's been phenomenal to see that partnership. FEMA was a political disaster before President Trump came in and said we're going to reform it, make it responsive, and that's exactly what we've done. But it needs to be funded in order for us to be able to give this kind of support. And this Department of Homeland Security bill is critically important to make sure that FEMA has the dollars it needs to respond. FEMA's charged with running our critical infrastructure and maintaining our government on our very worst day. That's the agency that ensures that our government continues to run should we be attacked, should we have a terrorist attack in this country, and we have a leadership situation where that needs to be in place. So this is a critically important agency that to not fund would be not just devastating for states in a disaster, but also for the continuation of our government.
Well, let's hope the lawmakers on Capitol Hill are listening to you this morning. Madam Secretary, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much. Great to see you.
Thank you, Secretary.
Appreciate it. Have a great day.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.